inspired by the works of Xuemo. Xuemo is one of the most prolific and inspiring Chinese author from Western China. And today's topic is also based on reflections and ideas found in Xuemo's writings. And we are going to talk about wealth, success, and the true meaning of life. In today's world, many people measure success by money, fame, and social status. People work desperately, compete endlessly, and sometimes even lose themselves while chasing material gain. But through Xuemo's works, we are reminded of a very important truth. Wealth itself is not the problem. The real question is whether we become controlled by our attachment to it. How should we face wealth correctly? How should we educate the next generation about success and happiness? And if wealth cannot stay with us forever, then what is truly worth leaving behind in the world? This sharing is not about rejecting success or denying material life. Rather, it is about discovering balance, meaning, responsibility, and inner richness. Through these stories and reflections from Xuemo's works, perhaps we can begin to see wealth from a completely different perspective. And perhaps we may also discover that the richest life is not the life that owns the most, but the life that brings the most value and warmth to others. Now let us begin today's sharing together. Nowadays, whenever people talk about success, they can hardly separate it from wealth. In the eyes of many people, the amount of wealth one possesses has become the standard for measuring success. That is why countless people in pursuit of economic gain resort to speculation, deception, and fraud. Some even go as far as to abandon their conscience and commit unforgivable acts. For example, they manufacture or sell gutter oil, contaminated milk powder, and expired fastenings. Have you noticed that almost all illegal business practices can bring enormous profits? That is why those blinded by greed are willing to take desperate risks and harm others. In the age of market economics, using wealth as a measure of success may have its reasons. But such reasoning is undoubtedly one-sided. Reputation is like the wind, and wealth is like flowing water. Their coming and going are beyond our control. At one moment, you may possess immense riches and power. Yet, in the blink of an eye, you may lose everything and struggle to survive. Whether around us or on the internet, stories like these are everywhere. From time to time, we hear of tycoons taking their own lives or entrepreneurs falling into depression. Although the details may differ, the root cause is often the same. It is the result of having an unwealthy mindset toward wealth. The Diamond Sutra says, all conditional phenomena are like dreams, illusions, bubbles, shadows, dew, and lightning. They should be contemplated in this way. This means that all things formed through causes and conditions are fleeting and impermanent. They arise and vanish in an instant, like dreams or flashes of lightning. Nothing can exist forever. We should always maintain this understanding. This is the truth of the world and the essence of Buddhist wisdom. It teaches us to see through impermanence and truly let go. Then when winter comes, we will not grieve over the passing of autumn, nor will we cling to the morning sun when evening falls. In reality, however, many people still fail to practice this understanding in daily life. They mistake illusion for reality and obsessively chase after fleeting things. It is like a puppy chasing its own shadow, especially when it comes to wealth and fame. People often refuse to let go. As the old saying goes, one does not give up until reaching the yellow river, and one does not turn back until crashing into the wall. By the time they finally awaken to the truth, much of their precious life has already been wasted. Nowadays, the internet is filled with negative news about wealthy people and celebrities. For example, people talk about what happened to a certain billionaire or to a celebrity's child. Some people have even done things that fall below the moral bottom line of society. As a result, they have triggered widespread public criticism. This situation is worth reflecting upon because when certain phenomena become widespread, it often means there is something wrong with the culture we promote. For example, there may be problems with a value system that measures people mainly by wealth and reputation. I once read a text message that said something very interesting. 70% of the functions on an expensive smartphone are never really used. Just like me use the Apple, I think it is just like um, just recently I used found many extra functions, but usually I just use the WeChat, maybe answer some coding and to take the picture with the filter, nothing else. Yeah, and the note function. So 70% of the functions of a luxury car are unnecessary. 70% of the space in a luxury villa remains empty. 70% of the clothes in a wardrobe are already worn. And 70% of the money a person works so hard to earn may eventually be left to others. When I think about it, this really does seem true. There was once a billionaire who suddenly fell ill and died. His beautiful young wife later remarried, taking his enormous fortune with her. Ironically, she married the man who had once been his driver. The driver signed emotionally and said something very profound. He said that he used to think he was working for his boss, but now he realized that in the end, the boss had actually been working for him. In a sense, he was right. In the early days of his business, the boss often survived on instant noodles and stayed up late every night. He lived a simple and exhausting life. Later, in order to expand the business, he constantly worried and lost sleep. He exhausted his health long before old age arrived. As a result, he died while still relatively young. How could he ever have imagined that all the wealth he worked so hard to accumulate would eventually belong to his driver? This story may sound dramatic, but it is true. Does this harsh reality give us something to reflect on? I believe it does, because it reveals a certain truth about life. We must understand that living actually requires very few resources. There is no need to desperately chase after more and more wealth. Think of Yan Hui, one of the Confucius' most admired disciples. With just a simple bowl of rice and a ladle of water, he was still joyful because he understood moderation and knew he did not need much. Many people today, however, indulge themselves in rich food every day. They travel everywhere by car and live in excessive comfort. Yet as a result, they suffer from obesity or illnesses related to high blood pressure, blood sugar, and cholesterol. Therefore, no matter what we pursue, we must always remind ourselves to know when enough is enough. Once desire exceeds its proper limit, it becomes greed. And those who are ruled by greed will eventually suffer the consequences themselves. From the Buddhist perspective, no matter how much wealth you accumulate, it will eventually flow away. Sometimes it even disappears while you are still alive. There was once a wealthy man who lived a life of luxury and pleasure. Beautiful women surrounded him, and he owned more than 10 luxury cars. But when the economic crisis suddenly arrived, everything changed overnight. In a single night, he went from being a billionaire to a bankrupt man, buried in debt. After losing everything, he could never let go of his former wealth and status. Every night he lay awake, unable to sleep. He had to rely on large amounts of sleeping pills just to calm his mind. Eventually, he became completely broken, neither truly alive nor truly dead inside. The man who was once envied by everyone became like a walking corpse. That is why when people cannot let go of wealth, they inevitably suffer deeply. So how should we properly face wealth? And how should we establish the right views in life? First of all, we must understand that wealth, which does not circulate, is merely a string of numbers. By itself, it creates no real value. Some people work hard all their lives to earn money, hoping to leave it all to their descendants. But they do not realize that if their descendants lack virtue and ability, wealth may instead bring disaster. So regarding this issue, there is a saying in Chinese: if my descendants are as capable as I am, why should I leave them money? If they are virtuous and wealthy, too much wealth may weaken their ambition. And if my descendants are not as capable as I am, why should I leave them money? If they are foolish yet wealthy, their faults will only increase. Hi, I missed the messages. Hello, John. Hello, Zara and Leonardo. Hello, welcome. Xuemo is the writer. Mr. Xuemo on the background in the poster. The Chinese writer Xuemo. Yes. Chinese writer Xuemo. Hi, Job Stans. Thank you for your message. I'm going on the boat to the lake tomorrow and had a I don't know, Hi, yeah. Xuemo has written over 80 titles and have been translated into 28 languages. Yes. And what I'm sharing today is about the topic today is the truth about wealth, success, and happiness. And these insights are from Xuemo's works. These insights are from Xuemo's works. So if you're interested in the building, you can yes, subscribe to our channel. So there is a saying in Chinese, in China, if they are foolish yet wealthy, their faults will only increase. Hi, Job Stats. Hello, welcome. Please subscribe to our channel if you are new here. I'm sharing the topic of the wealth Wealth and Happiness Today. And all these insights are from Xuemo's works. Xuemo's works are available on Amazon. You can search for Xuemo, Xuemo, Xuemo. Yes. So the words explain very clearly how wealth should be handled. If future generations are capable and responsible, they will be able to support themselves. In that case, leaving them too much wealth is unnecessary. On the contrary, if they obtain comfort and luxury without effort, it may harm them instead. Even talented and virtuous people may become addicted to pleasure and lose their greater aspiration. Likewise, if one's descendants lack ability and character, giving them easy wealth can also become harmful. If they lack wisdom and virtue yet never need to struggle, they may start trying to improve themselves. They may even begin to look down on others or bully those around them. In this way, wealth only increases their mistakes and wrongdoing. Therefore, instead of leaving material wealth to future generations, it is better to leave them spiritual wealth. Children should grow up in an environment that values virtue, responsibility, and contribution. They should not grow up in an environment obsessed with money and status. Only then they can truly benefit throughout their lives. When browsing the internet, we often see news about second generation officials or children of the rich. From birth, they enjoy privileges that ordinary children could never imagine. In some cases, they can have almost anything they want. Logically, they should become more successful than ordinary people. Yet, in reality, many stories about them are negative rather than positive. Why does this happen? One reason is that many of them lack a broad vision and deep moral character. They have never found true meaning in life. They don't know what they truly want to accomplish. As a result, they feel empty, bored, and directionless. Another reason is that they obtain things too easily. Over time, they begin to take everything for granted. They fail to realize that what they enjoy was earned through the hard work of earlier generations. Because they do not understand hardship, they do not know how to cherish what they have. Therefore, compared with leaving behind wealth, passing down wisdom and spiritual character is far more important. In this regard, some wealthy people in the West have set very good examples. For example, Warren Buffett, one of the richest men in the world, yet his son did not receive excessive privilege or special treatment. Later, his son wrote a book called Life is What You Make It. And in the book, he talked about the education and the values he received from his family. I wonder, have you read this book? Life is What You Make It. Okay, one conversation in particular was especially meaningful. Peter Buffett once told his father that he wanted to buy a house. Warren Buffett replied, "Son, the relationship between you and me is very pure. Do not let money contaminate it." For such words to come from a businessman is truly remarkable. That is why Warren Buffett is not an ordinary businessman. He is both a great businessman and a great father. Later, Peter Buffett wanted to develop his music career and urgently needed financial support. Warren Buffett did give him some money. However, the amount was intentionally limited. It was far from enough to fully support the business or career. Warren Buffett believed that this was his son's own path in life. Therefore, his son needed to take responsibility for himself.
干嘛？还翻这儿这个？
当然，当然。I feel he should not depend on his father or expect special privilege. So Warren Buffett only provides 1/10 of the needed funding. The remaining 9/10 had to be earned or solved by Peter himself. And many people found this difficult to believe. They thought the father and son were simply putting on a show. But actually later, Warren Buffett announced that he would donate most of his fortune to charity. Part of it would go to his son's charitable foundation. Another large portion would go to the charitable foundation of Bill Gates. He also made it clear that he would not leave enormous inheritances to his children. The whole world was shocked by this decision. Many people assumed Peter Buffett would resent his father, but Peter reacted in exactly the opposite way. When he heard the news, he immediately called his father. He told his father that he was very happy. He also said that he felt proud to have such a father. Warren Buffett was deeply moved and comforted by these words. So he replied to his son, I am proud of you as well. And so having wealth is not a bad thing itself. The key lies in how we use it. Bill Gates possesses enormous wealth, yet he didn't simply leave all of it to his children. Instead, he established charitable foundations. He used his wealth taken from society to give back to society. He had done countless things beneficial to the world. For example, he has invested heavily in advancing research and development. He has also worked to reduce poverty around the world. A few years ago, he even stepped down from the boards of Microsoft and companies related to Warren Buffett. He chose instead to devote himself fully to charitable work. Why did he make such a decision? Perhaps because he believed that charity carries deeper meaning and greater value. Perhaps he felt it was something truly worthy of dedicating his life to. Therefore, having the ability and resources to help others is actually a joyful thing. We should not think that giving without expecting rewards is a loss. Sometimes the act of giving is itself the purpose. It can make every second of your life feel full and meaningful. Then your life will never feel wasted. The same principle applies to raising children. If you truly love them, you should guide them to discover this kind of joy for themselves. You should not simply hand them the apples you have grown. Otherwise, they will never understand the joy of planting trees, nor will they ever experience the happiness that comes from the process itself. You must teach them how to plant the tree themselves. You should help them understand every effort required to harvest an apple. And you should teach them to enjoy the process of labor itself. Let them personally experience the joy of nurturing a young tree. And let them witness apples growing from the branches with their own eyes. Only fruits earned through effort will truly be cherished. And only by overcoming difficulties through one's own hard work can happiness become real and solid. Otherwise, happiness becomes merely an illusion created by privilege. This principle applies not only to wealthy people, but to everyone. Only by steadily walking every step of life's path can a person build a solid foundation. You must lay every brick of your dream with your own hands. Only then will the building of your life stand firmly. And if you can build that building large enough to shelter more people, its meaning becomes even greater. If your efforts can help others live peacefully and pursue their dreams, your life gains even deeper value. Of course, this kind of life requires greater effort and responsibility. But every step you take will belong truly to you. Your path will be real, solid, and independent, compared with selfishness, or gaining things without effort. This kind of joy is far greater. When you sincerely live in this way, you will personally experience that joy. And you will understand the truth behind the famous public service slogan, help others, and you will also bring happiness to yourself. Therefore, do not become attached to wealth. Instead, learn to face wealth with the right attitude. And the same principle applies to fame and status as well. If we can not only develop this attitude ourselves, but also pass it on to others, the world will become more beautiful because of our existence. So, thank you everyone for joining today's sharing. And the reflections we discussed today all come from the words and wisdoms of Xuemo. Through these stories, we are reminded that wealth itself is not the true problem. What true matters is the relationship we build with wealth, fame, and desire. If wealth can help us become kinder, more responsible, and more capable of helping others, then it carries real meaning. But if we become trapped by endless desire and comparison, every great wealth may bring suffering. Many people spend their whole lives trying to own more. Yet perhaps true freedom comes from needing less and giving more. This is one of the beautiful messages found throughout Xuemo's works. So if today's sharing resonated with you, we warmly invite you to continue exploring Xuemo's books and teachings with us. Xuemo's works include literature, philosophy, spirituality, culture, and reflections on modern life. Many readers around the world have found inspiration, peace, and inner strength through Xuemo's works. You can find Xuemo's works on Amazon and through the official website shop.xuemo.com. And the official store also offers cultural products inspired by Xuemo's philosophy and wisdom. So thank you again for spending this time with us. No matter where you are in the world, we wish you peace, clarity, and wisdom. And may we all learn to create a more meaningful life, not only for ourselves, but also for others.